Well, I had a little vacation in a sunny place for a few days. Did I tell you about the three women? They were on a vacation. They got away from their husbands. They went someplace, three women. And one of them called her husband back home. She said, "How's everything?" He said, "It's okay." He said, "But your cat is dead." She said, "What? Why are you telling me like that? I'm so upset. Why can't you kind of soften the message? My cat is dead. Why don't you just say, well, the cat went up on the roof and we tried to get it. It didn't work out." You know, I mean, you had to just blurt it out. He said, "Honey, I know, you're right. I'm sorry." She said, "By the way, how's my mother that lives with us?" He said, "Your mother? The other day she went up on the roof." All right. So, we have this powerful Easter time story. The two friends of Jesus walking on the road to the village named Emmaus, and they're downcast, they're disappointed, they're frustrated, they're so sad. Their friend Jesus of Nazareth had been crucified. They didn't know yet. Should they believe in this thing the women were saying? The tomb was empty. I mean, they're walking away from Easter, leaving Jerusalem. They're going to this town. So they were very sad. And they end up meeting the risen Lord. He walks with them, and he talks with them, and he spends time with them. Well, the first message of this powerful story is that finally, they didn't recognize him at first. You know, I thought about that over the years. Did you ever have some sadness? You're so tear-filled eyes, weeping. You sometimes you don't even know who's standing in front of you because your eyes are filled with sorrow. Maybe that was why they didn't recognize their friend at first. But then the message for us is finally they recognized Jesus, the Lord of Easter, really present with them in the breaking of the bread. Well, the first century Christians knew that meant the Eucharist. We call it going to Mass. It's the breaking of the bread at the table of the altar. It becomes the body and blood of Christ, the risen Lord. So finally they recognize him in the sacrament, in the breaking of the bread, and so do we. That's why we gather here so often in God's dwelling house. Now, we have a lot of friends, neighbors, relatives. They'll say, "Oh, you know, Father, I don't need to go to church. I mean, I'm Catholic, but God is everywhere, and, you know, I pray whenever I feel like it, and I don't need to get together with these people, and I don't need to meet Jesus in the communion or the breaking of the bread." And I say to them, "Well, you're missing the boat, buddy, because we know that we recognize the presence of the Lord of Easter more fully, more beautifully, when we do what we're doing right now, when we gather for the breaking, the blessing, and the sharing, not the bread, but the body of Jesus in our sacrament." So, you know, if you avoid that, if you're absent, well, you're missing the whole boat. So that's one message. The second message is a pretty good one. These two guys, friends of Jesus, were totally bent out of shape, depressed, downcast, upset, frustrated. But then their disappointment changes to a deeper faith. By the end of the story, they're walking back to Easter, Jerusalem. They did a complete turnaround, you know? And sometimes we need that, especially in springtime, Easter time. It's our time to do a good turnaround, to walk back to Easter, walk more closely with the risen Lord in every way, especially the weekend worship that we're called to do. So in our lives, we have setbacks, disappointments, frustrations, a bad report from the doctor, problems with the kids and the family, who knows what. You watch the news, some days looks like the whole world's going down the toilet, you know. We have frustrations, setbacks, sadnesses. If you haven't already, you will. There'll be more than one. But don't let your disappointment make a distance between you and recognizing the Lord in your life. That's the whole point. There will be disappointments, but don't let it create a distance between you and recognizing the power, presence of Jesus in your life. That's a very important message. Now, we got the name of one of these two guys. His name was Cleopas, and it never gave us the second guy's name. Why is that? because you and I are supposed to put our name into the story. And that is part of what Easter's all about. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.